Happy Sabbath, everyone. Hey, good to see all of you guys here. When you guys see this phrase right here, you are known, what does that make you feel? Usually, there's two different responses I usually get whenever we are talking about Enneagram. One of the probably most frequent response I get whenever we're talking about Enneagram, and by the way, those of you guys who have no idea what Enneagram is, I'll explain in a little bit. Uh, But when I talk about it, one of the first things that people's response is they feel very vulnerable, right? They feel like, oh shoot, like you know me, like oh shoot, you could see past my maybe like the mask I have or some kind of like custom I'm wearing, like you see past that, and a lot of people they feel very unnerved by that. But really, it's really interesting. I don't get the second response very often, but sometimes I do. So a couple of weeks ago, I took Enneagram to a dinner. I like to take it nowadays because I feel like it's such a good conversation starter. I started sharing with them a couple of people, new people that I haven't really met, Enneagram. And this one guy, he took the test. He took the test, and then we found out what type he was. Okay, I'll tell you guys the type afterwards. Actually, it's not that important. But anyways, I tried to, and then he said, oh, I'm this type. He was type 1. I said, okay, let me try to explain. And then I said one line. I don't even remember what I said. I said one line. He started tearing up, and he started crying. Okay? Why? Because, yes, there is this concept when you are known, this idea that, you feel very vulnerable. You feel like there's something within you that's like you're exposed. But for some other people, they're like, wow, I finally feel understood for the first time. And that's exactly why he was crying. He was crying because everybody else in his family, he was a very strong one. And if you guys remember how ones are, they're very uptight a lot of times, and they're very serious. And so their family was always like, dude, calm down. Like, why are you so serious? And for the first time, when I said that line, like I said, I don't remember what I said. He felt understood. And he started just tearing up. And I started tearing up, and it was very emotional. What is Enneagram? Those of you guys who are here for the first time, we're going to go through some deep stuff, okay? Hopefully it's not going to bring you to tears, but it might. Enneagram, basically, if you look at it just superficially, it's just a personality test. But we're using this personality test as a tool to basically say, we're using these personalities to hide from God differently. Okay? In Genesis 3, it describes how before Adam and Eve, they were the first humans, when they sinned, all of a sudden, they started to feel scared of God, and they started to hide from God. And this is exactly how we feel a lot of times. We feel like we're scared of people. We feel exposed. We feel embarrassed to just be who we are. And so what do? We put on masks. We put on clothes, right? We do different things to say, this is how I get my worth or my identity. Okay? But normally, we don't think of personality as something that we use to do that. But Enneagram basically says, no, there's 9 different types of personalities, and all of us, we're different. We use these personalities to basically say, this is how I get my worth or my love or my value. Okay, so we went over 8, went over 9, went over 1, 2, and now we're going over 3. Okay, if you guys see, I have no notes with me. Why? Because I don't need it. Do you guys know why? Because I am a 3. Okay, so I don't need any notes because I'm basically describing myself. All right. By the way, I thought, I've been studying Enneagram for like last 6 months now. I've done it many times, and I was like, what's the big deal? I could describe myself pretty easily. But as like it was getting like Wednesday and Thursday is usually my sermon prep day, and then Friday I was starting to get like more and more nervous. Why? Because again, like I'm like exposing the thoughts I have that's deep inside, and I resonate with a lot of these things. All right, so let's talk about a 3. By the way, if this is your first time here, you have no idea what Enneagram is, we do have tests in the back. it's very long test, so you can't take it right now. But afterwards, there are tests in the back for you guys. By the way, if you're listening to this and you think you're a 3 or you have no idea what Enneagram is, but anything I say, it makes you feel very uncomfortable and you want to leave the church, most likely you're going to be a 3. But 3s, we'll go over it later as well. Okay, 3s, they're what we call achiever. Okay, cool title, right? Achiever. Why are they called achievers? Okay, the reason is because for 3s, achievement is very, very, very important. There's 2 words that describe 3 very, very well, which is productivity and efficiency. Okay? That is the game of 3s. That's what's the most important thing. It's not human beings, it's not love, it's not emotions that are important. For 3s, what's the most important thing for 3s is productivity and efficiency. Why? Because productivity and efficiency helps 3s to do stuff, to achieve. And that's very, very important for a 3. Now, on the outside, 1, 2s, and 3s, they look very similar in the sense that they seem very busy, they're always helping out, and they're always doing stuff. But you see, this is why Enneagram, it's so cool, because on the outside, you could just go, oh, they're just hard workers, or they're just achievers, they just like doing projects, they're just diligent people. But on the inside, the motivation factor is very, very different for all 3 of them. So for ones, what's important? Do you guys remember? They're doing work because they're doing the right thing. Okay, right and wrong, that's very important for ones. But for 2s, what's important? We talked about it last week. It's about feeling needed, right? They'll do things as long as it's helping out somebody. But for 3s, none of those things matter. Okay, for 3s, ethics, doing right, what is wrong, matters. It doesn't matter at all. Okay? For helping out other people, that doesn't matter at all. For 3s, the most important thing is I achieve as much as possible. I do as much as I can. So being productive, being efficient, that's the key. That's the name of the game. That's the most important thing for a 3. Okay? So I'll give you some examples from my own life. Okay? I never watch a YouTube video, okay, or podcast normal speed. Okay? Never ever. Why? It's not efficient. It's not productive. Okay? I never just watch YouTube video, or I never, like, you could ask Nicole, you could ask Grace, okay? I'm always listening to something. Okay? When I'm doing something. Why? Because I gotta be efficient, I gotta be productive. Again, there's some of you guys who are different types who could resonate, but for 3s, that's life. Productivity, efficiency is everything. So if something is not productive, if something's not efficient, then I don't want to do it like that. Okay? So that's what one of the characteristics. Characteristics number 2 is they're performers. Okay. Why do you guys think I became a pastor? Okay, some of you guys say, oh, you were called. No, it's because I'm a 3. Okay? Standing up here in front of you, talking to you guys, this is natural for 3. 3s, they enjoy, of course, not all 3s, talking generally, but most 3s enjoy doing this kind of stuff, standing in front of people and performing. Why? Because their life is an act. Think of this. Imagine an actor or an actress, they had to play a role in a movie. So what happens? When they go into this movie, they are a certain role, and they play it well. And then when they go into another situation, they're a different role, right? It's a different movie, so they play this well. This is what 3's life looks like. For 3s, being successful, achieving is so important. Okay? They're willing to transform into whoever you want me to be. Okay? So, when I'm interacting with certain people, I act in a certain way. When I am with non-church people, I act in a certain way. Of course, again, all numbers have variations of this, but 3, it's very, very extreme. Okay? So some people who do not know, like for example, non-church people, they would never have guessed that I'm a pastor. Right? They would say things like, "Whoa, but you're way too cool to be a pastor." I know, I know. I'm just kidding. Okay? Okay. But the problem is with these achievers or 3s is that they lose themselves while acting. Okay, that's the issue with 3s is they've lived their life, okay? If I act this way or if I say certain things, they're going to like me. So in this way I'll act like this, I'll act like this, I'll act like and it's all different, but the problem is by the time they become 20s, 30s, 40s, especially when they reach midlife crisis, okay? For the 3s, they have no idea who they are. They totally lost sense of their identity because everywhere they go, they're like social chameleons. So you see, the good thing is they get along with everybody. They can please everybody. Okay, 3s know exactly what to say. They're actors. Okay? But the problem is they lose their identity. Number 3, out of all the Enneagrams, okay, 3s and 5s, okay, some of you guys are 5s, 3s and 5s are the most detached from emotions. Okay, but the problem is with 5s, you could see it more. But with 3s, you can't tell. Why? Because again, 3s are so good at performing. They're so good at acting. They're so good at faking it that you'll never actually know that they're very unemotional. What I mean by that is because for achievers, for 3s, efficiency, productivity is more important, right? The problem is feelings, emotion, it gets in the way for 3s. So what do? Whenever they feel sad, whenever they feel depressed or they get some kind of emotion, they just go into working. So they never solve their emotions. But you might be saying, well, I'm a 3 and I feel emotions. Well, a lot of time, again, 3s, they see what other people feel. And so they just copy that emotion. Okay, so for example, again, not all 3s are like this. I'm talking specifically for me, okay? When I go to funeral, okay, I don't feel sad at all. Okay, I know some of you guys, you might be like, whoa, he's a robot. And actually, 3s are very like that. They have very, very difficult time feeling. But if I see somebody cry, I mean, I don't think about it. Like, I'm not thinking, oh, I should cry too. Okay? But it triggers something in me, and then I start crying as well. Okay? Why? Because 3s are totally out of touch with their emotions. Why? Because for 3s, work is more important than feelings. Feelings get in the way. Again, this is generalization, but this is how a lot of 3s feel. Let me give you a picture, and this is actually from last night. Let me give you a picture that describes all 3. Okay? Yesterday, as you guys know, my wife is pregnant. Yay, 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 yay. Okay. But she's having a pretty hard time, and she's because of morning sickness. So last night, around like 10 p.m., she was like throwing up. Okay. So what do? Okay, she's throwing up. I want to help her, so I'm like, I tap her back to like help her, but I'm like, this is not efficient, right? I'm like, I could do something. Okay, so what do? I'm reading a book. Okay. Okay, I'm reading a book. Okay? I hear, I'm like, no emotions whatsoever. Okay, she's got to deal with her emotions. I got to read. I got to be productive. You think I'm joking? No, no joke at all. Okay, ask Grace. That's exactly what I do. I'm tapping her back. I'm reading. And then she's done. Oh, okay. And then I go back. Okay? Again, that's what 3s, not all 3s, but your pastor looks like, okay? Let's see. This is a lyrics. I told you guys, sleeping at last. That's the group, and they really liked Enneagram, so they decided to make a song for every single one. So by the way, if you want to look at your number, you could actually type in "sleeping at last" and then whatever your number is, 3 or 2 or 1. Okay. So this is what a 3 says. Maybe I've done enough. Okay, which is almost never. Okay, you ask a 3, how was your day? Most of the time they said, I don't think I did enough. Why? Because for 3s, again, achieving, productivity, efficiency, doing stuff, that's important for 3s. Finally catching up. It's so exhausting on the silver screen where I play the role of anyone but me. For 3s, their life is extremely exhausting. Why? Because they're always doing stuff. They got to be always productive. Their relationships, most 3s, they have a very difficult time in relationships. Again, why? Because relationships, it includes feelings and emotions. And 3s, they don't do well with emotions and feelings. What's more important is efficiency and productivity and projects. That's more important. So it gets really exhausting for 3s. They're just working. A lot of 3s are actually workaholics as well. Okay? But we're going to see why later on 3s are actually, I think, one of the most difficult to heal. Okay? We're going to talk about that. But again, this describes a 3 quite well. So can we find the 3 in the Bible? Can we try to identify what's the lying underneath? And can we identify what the healing message for a 3 is as well? Jeremy read it for us. The 3 in our text today, his name itself means deceiver. Do you guys, anybody know who it is? It's Jacob. Isaac, who is the father of Jacob, he prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife, Rebekah, became pregnant. The babies fought each other within her. Okay? So what do we see? Isaac, Rebekah, that's husband and wife. They pray because they are childless. Lo and behold, they have a twin. But what's going on inside Rebekah? The twins are fighting with each other. Again, we don't know exactly what Esau is, but Jacob inside, again, there is battle within. 3s are also very competitive. I didn't talk about this, but 3s are also very competitive as well. Because again, for them, achievement is very important. Because of that, they're always comparing themselves with other people as well. So continuing on. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel. Why? Again, because 3s do not like losing. 3s hate losing. 3s always have to be the best. Again, achievement. I have to stand in front of people. I got to be number 1. That's very important for 3s. And that's exactly what we see with Esau. Okay? So his name is called Jacob. Okay? Which also means in the Hebrew language. Okay, so in Hebrew, there's two, you know how like some words have two meanings? Like for example, it's an idiom. For example, we say like piece of cake. Like as in piece of cake as in like piece of the cake, but we also say piece of cake as in that's easy, right? And Jacob's name is like that. Jacob, literally it means to hold on to someone's heel. But it also means to deceive as well. So it's an idiom. It's a Hebrew idiom. And so his name, because he held on to Esau's heel, his name is Jacob, but also means deceiver as well. Okay? We see what he does. As a 3, Jacob utilizes his hungry brother for his advantage. Again, there's something that he needs to get. This is what 3s do a lot of times. Okay? Relationships, human beings, Again, important, but productivity, efficiency is more important. And so as long as I can get stuff, as long as I can look successful, as long as I can achieve, okay, I could use people. I could deceive people. It's fine as long as it looks good on the outside. He also tricks his blind, dying father to get a blessing. Again, this is what threes look like a lot of times. They're okay with taking advantage of people as long as productivity, efficiency, as long as I can perform, that's what matters. Oh, sorry. Esau gets really angry, and this is what he says. He says, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob?" He's a deceiver. You see, he's always deceiving me. He's always messing with me. This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright when I was hungry, and now he's taking my blessing. Again, this is what threes look like a lot of times. So what's going down inside? What's the lie that threes believe in? Again, there's good and bad. I feel like I'm talking more about the bad, but just because I'm a three, it's easier for me to talk about the bad. But this is the lie that they believe deep down inside, and this is why it's coming out in their personality like this. One more example. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, "I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel." Okay? So he's basically saying, hey, I'll work for it. Okay? Working is important. By the way, 7 years, that's way, way too much. Okay, maybe a year, but 7 years, that's way, way too much for the culture back then. But for him, again, Jacob, work is natural for him. Achieving is natural. So I'll earn her. And that's what threes look like a lot of times. Okay, so what's going on? This is the lie that they believe in, threes. They believe you are what you do. You are what you do. Okay, so the more I do, the more valuable I am. Do you see how productivity and efficiency is important for a three? Why? Because if I do more with productivity and efficiency, I am more valuable. I can get more love from people. Achievement, striving to excel, and being acknowledged for your work is the basis of your identity. Okay? This is what threes believe. Deep down inside, all threes, okay? Again, on the outside, it might look different, but deep down inside, this is what threes are thinking. They're thinking, I gotta achieve. I gotta be number one. I gotta be what my parents tell me to be. Then I will have love. Then I will have value. I am what I do. So this is the process in their mind. My identity comes from what I do. Therefore, everything I do, I must succeed. I must do it well. I can't just just do it like that. I got to do it really, really well. I must show people that I'm successful. And that's why a lot of threes, they can put on a mask very, very easily. If you know threes here, show up to them just randomly and say, "How are you doing?" A lot of threes, they have a really, really hard time answering right away. Why? Unless they know that they're in the situation where they have to answer. A lot of threes, they're calculating what to say and what not to say. Okay? Again, I must show people that I'm successful. Why? To show them that I'm worthy of love. Success, productivity, efficiency, achievement. This is what's going to get me love. And this is what threes say. Emotions, ethics, people, ethics, not important. They're not important. What's most important is as long as I can be successful, that's all that matters. Some of you guys, if you like tennis, do you guys know Andre Agassi by any chance? Yeah, some of you guys? He wrote a book after he finished his career. He wrote in his biography, he said, not biography, bibliography? Anyways, a book about himself. You know what I'm talking about, right? He wrote, from the moment I picked up my tennis racket and the moment I laid it down, I hated tennis. And people are surprised, right? He was such a great player. But he said he hated every single moment of it. The only reason why he did it was because his dad told him, okay, you're worth something, you're good when you actually play well. That's what fueled him the whole time. He absolutely hated tennis, but he was so good at it. Why? Because, again, he said, if I succeed, if I do what my dad tells me or what my mom tells me, then I'm worth something. I have value. I have worth. And this is exactly the lies of the threes. Okay. This is from a book I was reading last night. Some of you guys might think, oh, maybe he looks tired. I slept at like 2 p.m. because I was reading. I'm stupid. Because this book was so interesting. Anyways, it's a memoir. And this is, I feel like this describes three so well. Ones will able to resonate with this as well. But this is what I think. I think a one could say this and a three could say this. This is what she says. Dear God, I know I've done everything wrong, and you hate me. From now on, I'm going to do everything right, so you'll love me. Again, this is what the lie of three is. I gotta do stuff well. I gotta do stuff right. Okay? I gotta do. Then God will love me. If I don't do enough, if I don't achieve, if I'm not successful, then I'm not worth anything. I'm going to read the Bible every day and pray. I'm going to ask for your guidance on everything. I'm never, ever going to have sex again. Well, until I get married to a real guy. Okay? This is what she's saying. She's saying, I'm not doing enough. This is what a lot of unhealthy threes look like. I got to do more. Okay. What's the healing message? I finally see myself. Because threes, they have a very difficult time knowing who they are, what they feel, who their identity is. Now, I want what's real to let my heart feel what it feels. Because again, I told you guys, threes have a very difficult time, okay, actually dealing with emotions. Gold, silver, bronze hold no value here, where work and rest are equally revered. Again, rest is very, very difficult for three. Even when I go on vacations, I'm working. I got to do stuff. Why? Again, because for threes, if you don't work, you're useless. If you don't succeed, you're useless. So you got to keep working. But again, when you get healthier, you find that, hey, rest is actually what we need. Rest is important. I set aside the highlight reel. Highlight reel, right? Highlight only shows the good stuff. Again, this is what threes look like. They say, I only have to show you the good stuff. The negative stuff, I'm going to hide it. I'm going to act it out. I'm worthy of love anyway. So what do we see with Jacob? Okay, how did he actually hear the healing message? It's really interesting because Jacob actually hears his healing message very early on in his life. But we see that it doesn't really affect him very well. It doesn't affect him very much, actually. It's because threes, I believe, have one of the most difficult time. I mean, all of us, we have a difficult time because we believed in this lie for 10, 20, 30, 40 years of our lives. And because of that, just to like take out that lie and believe the truth, it takes a tremendous amount of work. But especially for a three, it's very, very difficult. Do you guys know why? Because, okay, what do we call America? America, we call it the land of the brave and, no, not free, land of the three, okay? efficiency, productivity. What does that sound like? That's America. Okay? Every single book I read on Enneagram, they all say threes, one of the most difficult. Why? Because threes live in the land of threes, which is America. America in itself says people are not important, emotions are not important, productivity is important, money is important, doing stuff is important, promotion is important. And threes live in that world. And threes already believe that. And everywhere they go, everybody praises them. They say, you're doing a good job, keep working. Don't you guys like it that I'm always busy doing Bible studies and doing stuff? Or do you guys want a pastor who's just lying around and doing not much? Huh? See? So for a three, it feeds into that. They say, one book said, for a three, it's like an alcoholic living next to a bar. That's what threes feel like living in America. Why? Because they're affirmed for what they do. You're being productive? Great. You're being efficient? Great. You're getting a promotion? You're achieving? You're doing well? Showing only the good side? Good, 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 good. Okay? So for threes, if you're a three in here, it's going to take a lot of work. But this is what you need to hear. Jacob heard it, but I don't know how much it affected him. We'll get there. Jacob had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. So basically, he's sleeping on a rock. Okay? And then he sees a ladder that connects earth to heaven. And we see heavens going back and forth, back and forth. Okay? And this is what God tells him. God says, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. And you will spread out west, east, all of these other places. All people on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. So God blesses him. He continues on, I am with you, and will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Okay. Do you know why this is really significant for a three? This is significant because of the timeline of when Jacob actually heard this. Okay? We might think, oh, Jacob must have done really good things here. Okay? Wow, he must have deserved all this blessing. You see, that's what threes are thinking. But no. He's on his way, running away, because he is going to get killed by his brother. He just deceived his blind dying dad, and he deceived his brother, and his brother is getting so mad that he's going to kill him, so he's running away. He has done nothing right. He has done everything to deceive people. But why is it that God can still say these things to him? Why is it that even though he did nothing right, he's not an achiever, he's a deceiver, and yet God is still saying, I am with you and watch over you? We see that it's because this is exactly what threes need to hear. What threes need to hear is, hey, before you did anything, before your efficiency, productivity, all of these things, you have to understand you are not loved for what you do. Okay? You are loved just for who you are. And for threes, that's extremely, extremely difficult for threes to believe that. Because for threes, again, their lie is, I have to continue to do to earn God's love. But that's not the gospel, right? And this is why I think, and we don't know if Jacob is three or not, but I think it makes sense why God showed him this dream early on. And said, you see, at your worst, I am still willing to be with you and watch over you. At your worst, when you're running away, when everybody's abandoning you, when everybody wants to kill you, okay, I am still with you and watching you and will take care of you. Again, even if you're not a three, you could resonate with this. Okay? Because all of the Enneagram, we always say, we got to use this, we got to do this. Okay, whatever it is, whether it's conflict, okay, whether it's being unique, okay, no matter what your Enneagram is, you're basically saying, I got to wear this, and then I can show up to God. But the message that all of us need to hear, especially for threes, is no, you're already loved. Even though you have done absolutely nothing to deserve it. Why? Again, this is the great news of Jesus. Jesus has come down. When everybody else walked away from us, when everybody else is trying to get rid of us, Jesus actually comes down. Eunice was talking about how this is the season of Christmas. That's what Christmas is all about. That's what Christmas is all about. Christmas is not God is saying, how come you're not doing enough? But Christmas is saying, you're never good enough, but I'm still willing to come and pursue you and watch over you and love you unconditionally. And this is exactly what all of us, specifically the threes, need to hear. At our worst, we need to hear, I am still with you and I am watching over you because you yourself, because of what I have done, because of Jesus' blood, because Jesus had died on the cross, you have worth now. It's not about you doing stuff. Jesus has already done it. We need to believe that. So this is the message, healing message for the threes. You are loved just for who you are, not what you do. You are loved just for who you are, not what you do. So let me give you a couple of suggestions. If you're a three, or if you feel like you're dealing with something like this, where you feel like you got to work for God's love, there's two things I do. One of the things I do when I wake up in the morning, okay, I do absolutely nothing, and I just sit. Again, for threes, extremely difficult, because threes, they got to like do stuff, right? Even like the quiet time, even like Bible reading, they got to do it efficiently and productively and like succeed. And it's very difficult to just not expect anything and just rest, okay? But what I try to do as a three is I say, Kirin, there's a whole bunch of stuff that in your mind you want to do. And that's fine. But you have to remember, okay, you are loved. Okay, you're already loved by God. I have to start with that. If I don't start with that, everything that I'm doing, I'm saying, give me love, give me love, give me love, give me love, give me love. I'm going to do more. And I become so tired by the end of the day. And second thing I do, okay, I always feel like it's never enough. Again, that's the three. Whenever Grace asked me, how was your day? I said, I don't even talk about my feelings. I never say, oh, I was sad today or I was disappointed. I never talk about feelings. I always say, I did this or I did that. Actions. It's always action words. And this is how you know you're a three. Okay? So when Grace asks me, how are you doing? I always say, well, I only had like 2 Bible studies today. I feel like I didn't really like read that much. I'm always saying I didn't do enough. There's more I got to do. So at night, I sit down and I say, God, these are all the things I did. I feel like I didn't do enough, but it's okay. But again, because why? My value does not come from that. My value comes from what Jesus did for me. So even if I didn't succeed, even if I didn't do enough, that's okay. Again, this is something that you have to continually fight with and continually tell yourself why. Because again, we believed in our lives, whatever your Enneagram is, for again, 20, 30 plus years. This is a continual fight. This is not something one day like you're just going to get it and all of a sudden, okay, you could hear one good sermon. It's going to feel really good for one day. But again, you got to constantly hear the voice of God. Okay, it's not, okay, because if you do not hear the voice of God, you're going to be listening to lies. So you got to constantly hear the voice of God. If you do know a three, If you live with a 3, it's going to be very difficult to stop them because they're always running around and doing stuff. But if you're a really good friend of 3, you gotta hold them and say, hey, stop and rest. 3s have a very, very difficult time resting. Even they're resting, they gotta be efficient and productive. But just say, hey, rest in the fact that God loves you. And you gotta really shake them and like sit them down and say, rest. That's very difficult. Okay? If you guys know a 3, you know me at least. Okay, come do that for me. Let's go into a time of reflection.